This year, the City of Atlanta made history, electing 4 members of the City Council who are openly part of the LGBTQ community. Liliana Bakhtiari, Keisha Waits, Alex Wan, and Matt Westmoreland now represent 1 in 4 of the Council's 16 members. Malik Brown, the director of the Mayor's Division of LGBTQ Affairs, sat down recently with each of them to discuss the impact of this important moment.
When you were first elected, you were the first openly gay man and the only LGBTQ person at the time. What does it feel like today, coming into a council chamber of 3 other LGBTQ people? How does that feel?
I feel like all the work that I've done over the last it's 3 decades now. No, but seriously, in the LGBTQ community, has been around just championing all the principles and values that we've been trying to champion around equality. To have all 4 of us on here means that that work is starting to pay off, and that voices that are so critical to our process, voices in our community that have not been heard and have not been given the opportunity to express themselves and be part of the dialogue, are now part of the dialogue.
So when I look at your resume, particularly around nonprofits, there's a particular focus on youth. Can you tell me why you're so passionate about youth?
I just really appreciate and fundamentally believe that they're our future. I also feel like they are so much more receptive. They are open-minded, they are curious. Let's take advantage of that. Let's tap into that and show them that anything is possible.
Good morning, Councilmember Bakhtiari. You are in your freshman term as a council member. Can you tell us how that feels?
I'm still getting used to it. When people say council member instead of Liliana, it's still very confusing and surreal, but I love it. It's chaotic, which my past prepped me for. This is where childhood trauma comes into play in like a positive way. It makes you really good at functioning in chaotic environments. But suddenly having the ability to have resources and be connected to people who can like move mountains in the city is a tremendous privilege, and it's really exciting.
With this recent inauguration, we swore in 4 openly LGBTQ people. Can you tell us how that feels?
Well, it's really nice to have people who understand it and who understand the challenges, and also now it's more of a discussion with our straight colleagues who all seem very eager to be the best allies they can be. So getting to talk about that, also getting to talk about my own non-binary and gender fluid status, and I'm growing into that. I'm going to be going through a lot of changes over the next few years. And having this caucus on council makes me feel much safer doing so, because not a lot of people understand that identities are stackable. Not a lot of other people understand gender fluidity or feeling in between or struggles with gender dysphoria. So 1, it makes me feel seen and makes me feel safe to talk about it. But at the same time, it also is an opportunity to have these conversations in this environment and from this platform and make it something that's more commonplace and make people understand that this is like anybody has the possibility, no matter your identity, to hold a position like this. So we get to make this conversation more mainstream, which makes a lot of other kids feel seen.
Can you tell us the change in the state and the city that you've seen as far as tolerance and accepting, and even just where the LGBTQ community is versus when you started your service?
One of the changes that come to mind for me probably is when you look at our pride. I believe we probably have one of the largest pride celebrations in the country. And I've seen that grow over the years. And one of the things that I always talked about on the campaign trail is that my understanding of the needs and issues of the LGBTQ community don't come from reading the paper. I don't go to Pride to campaign. I celebrate Pride. I am Pride. And so it's a little bit different. And frankly, it's just seeing the evolution, having friends who were not as open-minded, having parents who were in fact homophobic, and watching them evolve over the years and their level of tolerance and the healing that's taken place in my family, I think is important. I have 2 siblings that are out. and open LGBTQ members. I had a brother that I lost several years ago in 1991 to the virus. And so HOPWA work is very dear and personal to someone like me. And so again, I get to wake up every day and live my truth and frankly to do work that I really care about. And so that's exciting.
You've touched on this, and especially in 2022, we talk a lot about intersectional identities. Can you talk about the intersection of being a Black woman and a member of the LGBTQ community and how that shows up in your work?
The way that I describe that is that I am no stranger to alienation. I am no stranger to being underestimated and overlooked. And so as a triple minority, being a woman, first being an African American woman, and then certainly, having the tag of the stigma for some, being LGBTQ is tough. And that's not an easy walk.
So on the eve of your inauguration, you came out. It was shocking to some people and I think heartwarming to most. Can you talk about what that felt like in that process and how it's been since?
Honestly, I wrestled with that decision. The fact that the content was so personal, the desire to live in a world where such pronouncements aren't necessary, fear that people would look at who I chose to be with and that would somehow impact how they viewed me or my public service. But honestly, part of what drove me to do it was looking at students, like the ones I had taught at Carver or the ones across Atlanta who maybe have ever struggled themselves with being authentic and real and truthful, either with themselves or with others. And if my public statements can help them in whatever they might be struggling with, I thought that was something that I definitely wanted to do.
So there was something that you said in your coming out statement that to the effect of you hope to live in a world where people don't have to do this anymore. Can you just build on that and tell me what you meant?
I hope we one day live in a world where people don't really look twice at two guys as they're holding hands, just as hopefully they won't look twice at an interracial couple doing the same thing. We're not there yet. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. I'm living into and coming into a world that's very different than it was for people 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm very fortunate about that. And I think we'll keep making progress. Atlanta is sending to City Hall a younger, more progressive group of folks with a lot of energy and urgency. The city's facing some real challenges right now, and I am incredibly excited about the new folks that we're welcoming on council. I'm excited to be coming back with my colleagues from last term, and I'm pumped about the future. It feels like this council is going to continue moving in the direction of operating more and more as a team. And looking at the challenges that we face as a city as a collective of 15. And I'm excited about that. The issues we have to solve have to be done with that mindset in place. And so I'm pumped about people bringing their different perspectives from the districts they represent, but tackling challenges head on as a body. And I think we're going to make some really good progress over the next year.
I'm just thankful that the people of Atlanta have given me an opportunity to do work on behalf of the city. I'm looking forward to working with my new colleagues. Some of them have been friends of mine for a long time. Some of them are people who I've just met in the last few weeks, and I look forward to doing wonderful things on behalf of the city of Atlanta. I'm been an advocate and an organizer fighting for communities on one side of this kind of conversation, but I recognize that there are a lot of systems, a lot of processes, a lot of just knowledge that I have not been privy to, that I look forward to being able to learn about, the histories, the ideas, just the stories that really have made the city what it is. And I look forward to learning from people who've been here for years or for decades in some cases. And I think it's important to help bridge the gap between the old and the new, the past and the future. We have to have positive relationships and even potentially friendships to move our city forward.
What this day means to me. Everything. I get to build on my family's legacy. My family came here with nothing, and the first time I ran, my father asked me why I was doing this to myself. This is something I've been working towards for years, representing my community, and I never thought I would get to be able to do that with my whole self. So it's still just, I'm just so excited. I'm so looking forward to learning from the people that have been here before us, that are currently on council, the veterans that have already been so helpful in helping us navigate who to talk to, the commissioners to get to know, how to pass and draft legislation, all of these pieces on how to just function and be our best selves on council. I think the thing I am most excited about is that we are going to get to lead under a mayor that truly understands the complexities of these issues, that has so much energy, and that wants to work with council and help us function and stop talking about the problems that we know that we have and actually turn that into action.
Well, today we're here for the Transportation Justice Town Hall, and it is just what it says. It is Campbellton Road getting the justice it needs for transportation. We know that Campbellton Road was promised $317 million of investment, and we as a community want to see that happen. And I mean, every level of government is weighing in today. This has gone through the MARTA Board of Directors. This has also gone through Council, City Council. This legislation was ratified in 2018. Campbellton Road is at the top of the project list for the more MARTA projects. At this point, I would love to see Campbellton Road with light rail, and light rail with a dedicated lane. So it won't be like our streetcar. It will have a dedicated lane, and it will also have 100 years of investment from MARTA. This Southwest Atlanta corridor, especially Campbellton Road, is at the very top of their ridership for the whole MARTA system. So that means that we have people that must ride the bus to the tune of like 4,000 people a day. We get Campbellton Road right, the development will follow, and Atlanta will become more equitable. We'll have more affordable housing here. We'll have more grocery stores. We have zero. It is time for people to do what they're supposed to do on Campbellton Road, and that's why we're here today at this town hall.
I'm the Vice Chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting this afternoon. Our Chair, Jason Dozier, has a scheduling conflict in his district this afternoon. I am joined at the moment by Council Members Bakhtiari, Wilson, and Amos, and believe that Council Members Hillis and Bond will be joining us shortly. Ms. Lindo, would you start us off by reading the remote meeting statement, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Today's Community Development Human Services Committee will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 404-902-5066 and entering conference ID number 151945. This information was also provided on the Friday, February 25th, 2022 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website and accessible via the Community Development Human Services Committee presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, February 25th via the city's website at atlantacityga.iqm2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6089 yesterday between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are please requested to mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. All amendments, substitutes, presentations, and other informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Bond is present. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bond, for joining us. I will make a motion to adopt the agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Will you please open that vote?
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Amos, how would you like to vote?
I vote yes.
And Ms. Bakhtiari, how would you like to vote? Councilmember Bakhtiari?
Yes.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. We've also been joined by Council President Doug Shipman. I will now make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second. Winston.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Amos, how would you like to vote?
Oh, yay.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. We have also been joined by Councilmember Hillis. Thank you, sir. Next up is public comment. There are 3 items for a total of about 4 items, for a total of roughly 10 minutes, if we can play those now.
One moment, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Ms. Marchie, and questions that I want to talk about the homeless. And I know we have a crisis, and we definitely have problems out there in Thomasville. It's not going to get no better. But we need who is tracking the homeless, and what organization that is supposed to be helping the homeless with the development, and how will we know who is doing what? So if we're not tracking the homeless, who is making sure, what success rate do y'all have? And that's the problem that we have. Locking them up is not solving the problem. And then I also know shelter is not the answer because it's not working. We need permanent housing. So what area are you looking to place the people that in Thomasville also, because not they're gonna become homeless. When I'm seeing that we gotta take care of our own, when I'm noticing that people from New York vouchers coming down here, we're taking them, and Georgia people are being left out. So I believe that we have to take care of Georgia families first, and then whoever come in later, then we take care of them. And that's what other states are doing also. The reason why I know this, because I'm from Brooklyn, and I'm from New York also. And my family worked in the shelter in New York City. It's not working. I thought that I did mention about the shelter, but we need to deal with permanent homes to put these people in permanent homes. What's the location? Do you have enough buildings to place these people? Like, we need to have hotels, buy the hotels. Because I was really big on the shelter, and since I talked to my family that who have been politics also in New York City. So, and number one, and then we need to find out who getting this money. Is there any kind of record that we got success rate? Are we just spinning the wheels? Are we just talking? Please contact me, and I would like to be on the homeless task force because I've been everywhere. I know some of y'all, and I have ran into some of y'all, know at 449158946. What's the solution?
Greetings, council members and staff, and special greetings to you citizens and voters of Atlanta paying attention to our government in action. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. There was a time when senior citizens from all quadrants of the city boarded buses and filled the council chambers. Boldly, they took to the microphone and exposed the plight of the aged, the disabled, the overlooked, and the forlorn. They told their stories and advocated for change. Change did come, but it was only temporal, and very few know the plight of the elderly today and what their day will look like tomorrow. The voice of the Commission on Aging has been hushed. The Council on Aging no longer works with the Commission on Aging. Neither of the two jointly work with the Fulton County Commission on Elder Affairs to serve the needs of the senior citizens of our city. Bringing back staff to work with committees can bring about a brighter future. So who dares to push aside that curtain of indifference, peer through the prism of activism and say, seniors, we hear you, we care, we are coming to your aid. Who dares?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Jason Dozier and the Community Development Housing Services Committee members. My name is Will Ramirez. I work in Atlanta, and I am a member of the HIV Housing Planning Group, the Housing is Health Coalition, as well as an HIV Policy Fellow with Georgia Equality. I want to take this opportunity to bring several items to your attention. Despite the work being done by the city's grants department with hospital service providers, another provider agency has been lost to the persistent issues encountered with funding this program. We ask that the City Council commit themselves to evaluating the grant-making and reimbursement process until all deficiencies are eliminated within the City of Atlanta processes. We cannot afford to continue losing hospital provider agencies. Two have been lost in the span of 3 months. The capacity issues associated with those losses directly impact persons living with HIV in need of housing services. Now, persons impacted by unstable housing and living with HIV are also being affected by a waiting list that is now made up of over 1,400 individuals and families awaiting services. Going forward, the Housing and Health Coalition and Georgia Equality ask that the city address the backlog of people who are still awaiting housing promised through the HALPO program proactively so that these people may receive the assistance they need. Lastly, we ask that the City Council encourage the city's grants department to improve communication with the city's hospital service providers to eliminate information silos or misunderstandings that may exist between both groups. There has been a desire on the part of providers for the city to offer direct training on their funding and reimbursement processes. We believe that this training will create an environment where there is a reduction in the amount of confusing information being disseminated. This will benefit both parties. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. I am a soulful spiritual being having a human experience. I ask this Community Development and Human Resource Committee and its chairman to hear my plea for the poor and allow poor people are the majority citizenry of this capital city of Georgia. And why is it that we can have in this last day of the month of February, the Black History Month, written by Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was a fantastic writer and researcher who knew the miseducation education of his own people was the reason that we don't do and support our Aboriginal people, our indigenous people to Turtle Island, North America, our committed ancient ancestors who taught civilization. Why is it that we don't turn and find out what we were doing to make us so great? It simply said, look at the senator, Reverend Rawlnight. Reverend Rawlnight showed esoteric symbolism. The first language among the darker peoples of the earth was the language symbolism. Our education was a system that was totally cultural and totally uplifting humanity. Right here in Atlanta, the capital city of Georgia, we won't even help the poor who lives on the street. We won't even help the children, women, and men in school to have trade. You have young ladies on the street selling water. You have men on the street selling water. And you will have Atlanta workforce development, and you want in to assure that we are allocating the money and making sure it represents the fair economic opportunity for these young people. So I ask you, Council Member of Atlanta, what are you going to do? You got Joe Biden helping Ukraine. You had Barack Hussein Obama in 2014 helping Ukraine. But as long as we don't have people to help humanity right here in Atlanta, how you think you measure up with the will of the Creator, or who you call God? You don't measure up. It's time out now. Let's come home and be transparent. Let's come home and show the love for your own people that are suffering, the darker people. And why? You had the Marshall Plan. Now you got Big on Muhammad. As-salamu alaykum.
That concludes the public comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo, and thank you to the members of the public for reaching out today. Next up on our agenda are presentations. We have two, one from the Atlanta Beltline and then one from Atlanta Housing. Mr. Higgs, are you there?
Here, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can. Good to hear you. Welcome, and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I appreciate that, and good to hear your voice as well, along with other members of the committee. And I will start my presentation. You will see this first slide that notates the Community Development Human Services Committee cover slide, but we will move into the following slide. That is just really a reminder about the comprehensive Beltline vision. I think oftentimes, again, the trail remains to some a star of the Beltline show, but we are responsible for so many things beyond the trail, and particularly the transit, affordable housing, jobs, environmental cleanup, parks, just to name a few. And I want to move into the next slide here that talks about significant milestones, and specifically for 2021. I love this slide, and so if you don't remember any of my gobbledygook that I'm about to share with you in these follow-up slides, these are three major buckets that I want to make sure remains on your radar screen. But more specifically, I want people to see the faces of the women and men that really advance the project on a day-to-day basis. And we really have some superstar people, individuals that make up a really incredible team that advance the People's Project. And so love this slide. This was last year when we were opening up the Southside Trail West segment in the Pittsburgh community. And so if you ever run across any of these individuals, please give them a nod and thank them for their great work. But significant milestones for 2021. Perhaps last year, 2021 was our best year ever from a Beltline perspective. Even in the midst of a lot of the national, state, and local challenges that we were having, the Beltline really advanced a historic year for us. And so obviously one of the big parts of that was the passage of SSD, which ultimately allowed us to pull forward $100 million for Beltline design and construction. And then with SSD, along with some historic contributions from the philanthropic community, and I think we all read what the Woodruff Foundation did for the Beltline, and in that roughly $80 million gift that they made, and we've already drawn some of those funds down. And then the TAD continues to perform in a significant way. And so with these three buckets of funds, that pulls together about $300 million for Beltline trail construction. And so this is the first time ever, truly ever, that we actually have line of sight to being able to finish the trail network of the Beltline by the end of 2030, as we promised to community. So that is significant for us. And again, 2021 was an outstanding year, not only because of the trail commitments, but we also excelled from a housing affordability and preservation perspective. Beltline, along with our partners, exceeded the annual goal for housing affordability for 2021. Our goal was to do about 320 units. We were about 14% over that for about 365 units created or preserved within the Beltline tax allocation district, which was very exciting. And there's some other pieces on the affordable housing front that I will share later in the presentation. And then the third piece of kind of significant milestones is just that we are doing work in every single quadrant of the Beltline. No longer are we in the days of just piecemealing this and one district versus another, but we have significant work going on in all quadrants along the Beltline. So to repeat, 2021 was a significant year, and again, just want to give a big shout out to the City Council and the Mayor and others for really advancing that special service district. That was game changing for us, and I often say this whenever the next book is drafted about the Beltline. What happened in 2021 should be the thesis of that next book about Beltline. It was that significant for us. And we'll go to the next slide titled Affordable Housing. This is just a quick overview of kind of where we are from an affordable housing perspective for Beltline. And I will guide your eyes over to the right side of the slide, and you can see that we are just under 3,000 units created along the Beltline, specifically in the tax allocation district. And then I will guide your eyes over to the left slide, or the left side of the slide, and you will see that we are also in the throes of creating 1,700 plus affordable units in the general planning area of the Beltline. And for those that don't know the distinction, the planning area is generally half a mile on either side of the Beltline trail. And the number on the right, the 2977, is part of our official counting methodology. And so we count units against the 5,600 unit goal for units created or preserved within the tax allocation district of the Beltline. So that's kind of where we are today. Just under 3,000 units created in the TAD, another 1,700 plus generally close to the Beltline for a total of about 4,600 units of affordable housing created since 2006. And then we'll go to the next slide, please, that is entitled Affordable Housing Created, Preserved. And I like this slide. This is a visual representation of where those units exist. And so you can see here in the blue bubble, those are developments that are actually completed. And then you can see in kind of the orange circle is projects that are actually under construction. And the triangles represent projects that are just generally in the Beltline planning area. And so you can see where the concentration of those units exist. We'll go to the next slide and talk about a recent example. And so this slide is titled Skyline Apartments. And so something that we are pretty excited about as well. So with our partners at Invest Atlanta, Housing Authority, Beltline, just a number of people that really advanced this over the finish line. But this is a 250 unit deal in the Peoplestown community. The developer is Exact Capital. And so 250 units with a good mix of units in the 60% of AMI range. And so really excited about this one. This closed in February. And so this gets us closer to our next annual goal for affordable housing for 2022, which our goal is to try to get over 320 units for this calendar year. Go to the next slide. It talks about affordable housing production. And I think this is a really interesting slide, just so folks can see, at least over the last 2.5 years, we have been very aggressive and focused on housing affordability along the Beltline. And so we have made some significant strides, and we have hit our annual goal over the last 24 months. But we've done more than just preservation and unit production. We have been in this mindset of acquiring key sites, land along the Beltline. We essentially have tripled our land holdings for affordability along the Beltline in the last 12 to 18 months, with many of you providing support on that. But we are roughly at about 66 acres of land that we control for future housing affordability. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but obviously when you control the land, then you can exact and kind of deeper and longer term housing affordability along the Beltline when you actually control the site. And so that's been a part of our strategy. It's not only production, but what is going to be good for the long-term health of the city. And so want to make sure that we're creating units that are going to be affordable for generations and not just a quick blip. We'll go to the next slide that says affordable housing. And this is something really interesting for us. So with the leadership of our 501c3 sister organization, Atlanta Beltline Partnership, we have stood up what we describe as a legacy resident retention program. And essentially what this program does is it actually pays for the rising property tax of residents that have been in community for a long time. Example of this, if perhaps a senior citizen who has been in, let's say, Pittsburgh for 40 years, and they're on a fixed income, and they've seen their property taxes go from $250 a year to $2,500 a year. This fund will essentially pay the difference of the two. And so we're really excited about this. This is another arrow in the quiver of affordable housing solutions. And Georgia Power, Bank of America, Woodruff have really stepped up to provide the beginning funds for that program. So very excited about that. And we'll go to the next slide that talks about job creation, something that I'm just very excited about, and bringing jobs closer to people and where they live is a part of our mandate for Beltline. And you can just see some of the numbers that we have up here. You can see permanent private job creation along the Beltline planning area, we are roughly at 24,000 units that have been created as of 2019. And so we continue to perform there. The original goal for us was to create or help facilitate the creation of 30,000 permanent jobs by the end of 2030. We have adjusted that number up to 50,000 permanent jobs created along the Beltline by the end of 2030. After the passage of the SSD, we believe that number could be adjusted up to be a little more aggressive. And so it's gone from 30,000 as a goal to 50,000 as a goal. And then the number that you see on the bottom here is the 1 year construction jobs to be created. And again, we outperform this specific goal. The goal was to create 48,000 temporary 1 year construction jobs by the end of 2030. It's obviously 2022, and we are at about 50,000 jobs created on the construction side. And so again, we continue to outperform in this sector. We'll go to the next slide that says economic development. And so after the passage of the SSD, the Special Service District, we have shifted a significant focus to small businesses along the Beltline. And so you'll see a lot of effort from our economic development team trying to focus resources to support the small business community along the Beltline. And this picture that you see here is a program where we provide grants to businesses along the Beltline to help them refresh their facade. So we provide a grant, and we marry an artist to the local business to provide them an update on the aesthetics of their facility so that they can benefit from all of this new Beltline traffic. So as we advance trail construction, that they can attract more customers. And then also with regards to SSD and small business, we have made a very significant effort in being aggressive in making sure that we give access to the DBE business community to actually help us to build out the Beltline project. And so we have put a number of up to 50% of a spend with the DBE and business community as we advance the Beltline. It's a pretty aggressive number, but that's one that we want to hold ourselves accountable to. We'll go to the next slide. And as we talk about accountability, so this slide titled Impact of Investment is a really exciting tool that we can actually hold ourselves, our city accountable for the impacts of Beltline investment. So as we advance this project, are we having the intended effect after we make these investments? And so now we have this data tracking tool that will allow us to do that. And then anyone who visits our website can actually play with this tool to better understand impact that the Beltline is having really on specific sub areas. And this was a really good partnership with Neighborhood Nexus and ARC and so forth to make this happen. And we'll go to the slide that talks about trail updates. I like to describe this as our Skittles slide, and so it's very colorful here. And you will see in the green, those are the segments of Beltline trail that have been completed to date. And then you will see the purple here that talks about trails that are in design. And then in the orange, yellow, if you want to describe it that way, are trails that are actually in construction. And you'll see West Side Trail segment 3 fits that description. And then I will also note something here on the blue. You'll see the blue dotted slide that talks about the northwest segment of the Beltline. And this is perhaps going to be the most challenging segment of the Beltline in our history. And so we have engaged the Path Foundation, and we'll use a lot of our not-for-profit organizations to help us push this through. But it is going to be technically challenging because this is where we don't actually have existing rail corridor to build Beltline. So we're going to have to go through specific neighborhoods, existing roads. We're going to have to fly over an interstate or perhaps under it. And so lots of challenges there, but we're up to it and excited about this challenge ahead of us. And this gives the next slide, which says Northwest Corridor, represents some of the options that we have in the Great Northwest. Again, this is going to be just under 4.5 miles of Beltline, mainline Beltline trail. And again, we have a number of options that we are studying. No decisions have been made, but we are taking lots of feedback from community. Community engagement group has been very busy there since last year. Again, just trying to get input into what the community is hoping for. And we will go to the final slide that talks about arts and culture, and very excited that the Beltline Lantern Parade will be on the West Side Trail in May. And we kind of we're trying to figure out what would be the best position to be in with still the elements of COVID. But it looks like we will be in a good place to actually host that parade in May. And also, Councilmember Liliani, you know that we are having conversations with the community about programming some type of space there in Reynoldstown. And Mr. Vice Chair, that concludes my report. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Either press the speaker button or go ahead and feel free to ask. Well, I've got two, so I'll start off. Mr. Higgs, can you, one, provide a time update on Murphy Crossing, the Avon property, and Chapel Road in terms of when we will start to see different things happen with those properties? And then two, what is the timeline that we're operating on around corridor selection for the northwest part of this project?
Sure. So I will take those site questions. And so for Murphy, we are still officially in our procurement, but the goal is to have some type of feedback or report out to the community. I would say in early summer is the goal. And again, without my procurement folks will like, oh, Clyde, you can't talk, but we hope to have something from a timeline perspective early this summer. And we had really good proposals out there, and proposals that will be very responsive to what the community was asking for with regards to Murphy. With regards to Avon, and so folks that are not familiar with that site, that is also in Oakland City. We control about 9 acres, not very far from Murphy's Crossing. They're close to the West Side Trail, and we will start programming Avon and Chapel Road at the latter part of 2022. The site that we are focused on for 2022 is really going to be that Garson site. And so folks that don't know, that is in Buckhead, Piedmont and Garson. We control a small site there that we will hope to get some type of RFP on the street this calendar year. And then the Chapel Road, which is in historic Weston Heights, Bankhead, it's roughly 31 acres, and we hope to start some community conversations about that late this calendar year or early 2023 is the target for that. And then with regards to the Northwest Trail segment, we hope to prioritize that segment or the preferred alignment sometime in April. And again, we're still collecting information, trying to hear feedback from community, from residents, and then ultimately recommending a preferred alignment based on user experience, economic development opportunities, community feedback, and then also, obviously, the finances, the cost of that specific segment. And so that's kind of our guiding criteria that we're using to try to advance a preferred alignment.
And then a brief follow-up before handing this off to Councilmember Winston. Once the recommendation comes, what does that literally mean? Will the Beltline board will take a vote or invest somehow, or the staff will designate it, and kind of what's the codifying, and then what's the step after that?
Yeah. So this will not necessarily go to the Beltline board, but this is something that we are going to, again, after all the information is collected, we then want to go back out and have another community conversation to talk about what that means. And so ultimately, once we pick an alignment, because this is not an official design study that people need to understand. And so this is kind of an early risk assessment. And so then we would have to start a design process, and then ultimately really to understand if we select a desired or preferred alignment, can we literally design it and construct it, and can we actually secure the real estate to make it happen? And so just expect additional conversation about the Northwest, because this first feasibility study is more of a risk assessment versus a design exercise. And so that would be the next step to see if we can actually achieve it. But we don't really know that right now.
Okay. That is helpful. Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I just want to say congratulations, Mr. Higgs, on working towards the affordability piece with the Beltline. I know that's something that's really important. And especially speaking specifically about the new Skyline development, which is in my district, so I'm really excited about that. Speaking of the southeast section of the Beltline, I just wanted to know specifically, was there any conversations and coordination with MARTA about the access that's going to be needed for the Summerhill BRT connection in that part of the district?
Yeah, and so we meet. So I appreciate the question, Councilmember Winston. We meet with MARTA on a regular basis, and I'll say after Jeff's untimely passing, Jeff and I had a standing call every Thursday to talk about some of these coordinating efforts. And but yes, we have talked about the Summerhill BRT connection to the Beltline, and specifically for the South Side Trail. We have a couple of recommendations there. I think that will help to improve that opportunity. But just know that we are meeting with MARTA on a regular basis, and we have a key person there that is providing those recommendations to MARTA, again, just to create a better experience and more connectivity so people have transportation options there. But we are meeting on a regular basis.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Would love to get some, correspondence or feedback about, some of those conversations and see how, myself and council may be able to help facilitate some of that. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Higgs. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
second and final presentation will come from Eugene Jones, the President and CEO of Atlanta Housing. Mr. Jones, are you there?
Good afternoon. This is Eugene E. Jones Jr.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Just fine. How about yourself?
Doing all
Good
right.
afternoon, council members. Appreciate the opportunity. Are we ready to begin?
Yes, sir. Take it away.
All right. On the first next slide, our mission. Atlanta Housing opens doors to quality, equitable housing options across the city of Atlanta while investing in the families, communities, and citizens we serve. Slide number 3 is what we do. We create, elevate, and innovate of what we do when it comes to public and assisted housing. Next slide, number 4, who we serve. We serve the extremely low to moderate income working families, seniors, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and those experiencing or at risk of homelessness. If you see the statistics on the right of the screen about the households that we serve, 26,000 is broken down as you see. 96% of our families have extremely low to very low income. 79% make less than $25,000, $26,000 annually. The next slide. Number 5, age creates a spectrum of quality, affordable solutions through housing programs that help meet a variety of needs. Next slide. We have a program called the Section 8 program, formerly called the Section 8 program, but it's called the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We have participants who pay no more than 30% of their income toward monthly rent, but we make contracts with landlords who provide Section 8 or HCV housing for our individuals who qualify. We have 456 new units from participating landlords this year, and we serve close to 12,000 households in 2021. Next slide. We have a program called Home Flex, which used to be called Project-Based Rental Assistance. What happens is when a developer comes over and says, hey, Atlanta Housing, we want to provide some affordable housing. Can you provide some Section 8 or Home Flex units so we can finance this deal? And so this gives us an opportunity to allocate Section 8 or Housing Choice vouchers. It could be a number from 1 to 30 or 40 to provide assistance for our housing choice voucher participants. We provide housing rental assistance to residents living in 6,487 privately owned units kept affordable by Home Flex contracts. Next slide. We have a great down payment assistance program, provides eligible home buyers with down payment assistance to purchase homes in the city of Atlanta. Up to $20,000 for eligible home buyers and up to $25,000 for eligible voucher participants, veterans, and education, healthcare, and public safety professionals. $18 million spent on 773 down payment assistance loan programs since 2018. As of 2021, we spent $5.6 million on 261 down payment assistance loans for families. Next slide. Quality housing, RAD conversions. RAD conversions is a rental assistance demonstration program that was instituted by HUD a number of years ago. Provides program partners with private developers who rehabilitate aging public housing properties and safeguard long-term affordability through the Section 8 funding. Typically what it is that it's to preserve the public housing side because Congress lacks or does not give us adequate resources to do capital improvements. They've come up with a different program called the RAD conversion. It has been very, very successful for Atlanta Housing. Right now, 1,370 public housing units converted since 2016. Next slide. You'll see the numbers of different conversions that we had over since 2016. I just want to remind the council members that not every housing or everyone that thinks there may be some desolate housing or some trash and units and so forth, that doesn't always belong to Atlanta Housing. These quality housing RAD conversions belong to the Section 8 program. We no longer control the in or outs of those units, and so, but we have a connection with the resident population, and we go in there and we visit those units to make sure that they're providing adequate care and services. Next slide. Haven program. stable housing with intensive case management and supportive services for those transitioning out of chronic homelessness. Short-term and permanent supportive housing. We have 550 committed units of home flex funding for PSH NOFA with Partners for Home. 599 Haven units for supporting disabled and formerly homeless or at-risk families or individuals. So what we want to describe here is that we do more than just building sticks and bricks. We provide adequate resources for our sister agencies and for our social service agencies to provide these needed housing, permanent housing for those chronic homelessness. 295 Home Again families served in 2021, and 1,400 housing choice vouchers for special programs that I just described to fulfill not all the needs, but most of the need that we can. Next slide. Real estate planning and development. AHA is addressing the city's affordable housing needs by prioritizing development of aged vacant land through public-private partnerships and offering capital investments in shovel-ready developments projects in the city of Atlanta. Next slide. If you look in our real estate department, we have 340 total rental units constructed or near completion on vacant land, 255 affordable units since 2019. We have a $50 million in co-investment with Beltline and Invest Atlanta and co-developments to create over 1,400 rental units and 1,300 affordable units. We'll have a $300 million AHA investment by 2027 for all that we do. 7,000 rental or home ownership units on aged vacant land and 4,000 affordable by 2027. To keep in line with the mayor's affordable housing, creating 20,000 units of affordable housing units. Next slide. Herndon Square. Herndon Square, our current unit projection is 477 rental and 32 for sale units, 67% affordable. Phase 1 was completed. We completed 97 affordable senior rentals. A great looking project. Phase 2, planned closing September 23rd to include 174 affordable and 30 market rate units, about 40,000 square feet of grocery, retail, and community space. Project closed out 2028. And so Herndon has 5 phases. The last phase is the phase that we're going to put, hopefully, a great supermarket. We invested $51 million in projected investment, and we'll have a total of $180 million of AH funds in this development of Herndon Square. Inglewood, next slide. Our partners with Michael's organization, Benoit Group, current unit projection 909 rental and for sale units, 50% affordable, approximately 80,000 square feet of commercial space. Project closing on 200 multifamily rental units in 2023. Projected closing of 160 senior rental units in fiscal year 2023. $300 million total development for Inglewood. Next slide. Everyone's always interested and they're always asking questions about the Civic Center. Our current unit projection in the Civic Center is 1,300 residential units. Preserving original civic structures while integrating housing with the Economic Development Center for the Old Fourth Ward area. We issued a request for proposal for developers back in November 2021, and we hope to have a selection and to present it to the Board of Commissioners in April 2022 to select a developer for the Civic Center. We're very excited about that. Next slide. Our resident services, we believe in the potential of people, so we consider the needs of those we serve and how we can elevate their lives and surroundings. Next slide. Economic mobility, access to educational, child care, transportation, health services, case management. We have a 5-star tenant program, and we have a robust WNBA in Section 3, where we have individuals who work, contract, and provide great services that we need. We have, since fiscal year 2018, 463 families increased their income enough to graduate from AHA rent subsidy programs. So to dispel all those rumors, our residents try to get out of subsidized housing. Right now, since 2018, 463 of those families have moved off HUD subsidies and assistance from the federal government. That's a great number. Youth engagement, next slide. Partners like APS helps us set up young residents for long-term success and connect them to after-school and summer programs and immersive learning opportunities. Employees fund the James Allen Scholars Award. Our James Allen was a former commissioner who passed away a couple years ago and is supported by the United Negro College Fund to help age-assisted youth. We have given away 692,000 college scholarships awarded to more than 175 students through the James Allen Community Scholars Award. Next slide. Our senior care. We invested $20 million and invested in our senior communities for communal spaces, resources, and more. Aging Well, signature health and wellness programs help older adults successfully age in place. Partnerships helps us provide safe social opportunities. We do a lot of things for our senior. We will continue doing that, making sure that as they're staying in place, that they have opportunities to make sure that they make their medical appointments, dental appointments, that they're fed, that they have social activities not only in the unit, but also when we reopen the community spaces, that we have the adequate resources and things for them to enjoy just a great life. Next slide. IT. While the information technology team continues to leverage technology to ensure the security of the agency's information aspects and to increase productivity for all of our business units, its Access Initiative employs a three-pronged approach to digital inclusion of all our residents. Next slide. Access Initiative, trying to make sure that all of our residents and all of our different sites have access to Wi-Fi and that they can be in line with everyone else who are accessing internet and providing opportunities and just something to do, looking at opportunities, work opportunities, job opportunities, health information, CDC, COVID-19, everything that we can provide. We have a three-pronged process: provision of devices, Wi-Fi connectivity, training, workforce development. Next slide. Digital Leadership Academy. Digital Leadership Academy provides technological skills and access to higher-paying jobs. We have 7 graduates and 6 new placements from cohort number 1. Next slide. Stronger neighborhoods. AHA is taking an innovative approach to building stronger neighborhoods across the city, particularly in those neighborhoods where our former public housing sites are located. Next slide. Stronger neighborhoods. A University Choice. A $30 million Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant awarded to AH in the City of Atlanta in 2015 by HUD to redevelop the former University homes, Ashview Heights, the AU Center, and Vine Center. We serve more than 500 residents through case management, supports legacy neighborhood residents with critical home repairs, connects residents to workforce, education, and health services, former university homes named Scholars Landing. Next slide. You see this next slide is a big breakground, 60 affordable rental units for Oasis, Ashley, Scholars Landing, 135 units, 108 affordable, completed December 2019. We have Ashley 2 at Scholars Landing, 212 family units, 114 affordable, target construction to start in early 22. Ashley 1C at Scholars Landing, 72 family units under construction, 50 affordable, target completion 2022. Scholars Landing, 69% total affordability. In 2023, there will be 479 total rental units, 332 affordable. Next slide. Stronger neighborhoods, University Choice. Former community center of a historic university homes, Roosevelt Hall, being preserved and reimagined to include history walls, community meeting space, computer center, library, special event space, office, and retail. We invested $10 million to do the renovation of Roosevelt Hall. We are going to open up that in June of 2022. Next slide. Our Boeing Choice development. We received $450,000 in Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant from HUD in 2020. Transformation plan for the former Bowen Homes public housing site, Cary Park neighborhood, and portion of Donald Lee Holloway Parkway. So we met with over 30 focus groups, stakeholder meetings, and public events. And feedback to serve as a framework for the final Choice Neighborhood Transformation Plan to be submitted in December 2022. We're going to reissue a request for a proposal for development partner in late spring of 2022. HA launch a beautification program at the local neighborhood fire station in fall 2021, and will conduct a park improvement program in 2022. Next slide, please. Fiscal year 2023 MTW, a moving to work annual plan. AHA has gathered feedback on its fiscal year 2023 moving to work annual plan. As an MTW agency, AHA is permitted to waive certain HUD rules and regulations to craft innovative solutions to local housing challenges. Highlighted content of the plan include agency priorities, current, modified, and planned MTW activities, operational activities, other agency activities. A public comment period is from February 9th through March 11, 2022. And you can view the plan on our website or at one of AHA's communities during that period. Last slide is to thank you. I want to just acknowledge my staff, my Board of Commissioners. We've done a great job of providing affordable housing, providing assistance to our supportive services agencies, and continue working with Invest Atlanta and the Beltline. Are there any questions?
There may be. Thank you for your presentation. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation today. I wanted to ask you that I may have missed it while you were making your presentation, but I'm concerned about the old Civic Center site and what will be the disposition of the facility. When the city passed the ownership on to Invest Atlanta, then subsequently, I guess, Invest Atlanta gave it to the Housing Authority. When that vote was taken, I was in opposition of the city releasing that facility, but it was predicated under the impression that there was an immediate deal and redevelopment that was going to happen, and that's been almost 6 or 8 years ago, and of course it's not developed. Can you elaborate on what will be what are the plans for that site, and what are the plans specifically for the old Civic Center?
Well, let me just say one thing, Council Member. The city didn't give us Civic Center. We paid for the Civic Center over $20 million. And so, I don't want to dwell in the past of what should have done or what didn't do. My intentions of Civic Center is that we're going to present something to our Board of Commissioners. But first, we're going to go to the community and tell them what our ideals are to redo Civic Center. We're proposing putting a supermarket on there. We're also proposing building at least 1,300 affordable housing units on that property. Now, I also want to make sure that everyone understands I'm not tearing down the Civic Auditorium. I want to do something with that commemorates what has been happening in that community. I have some ideas. I want to make sure I talk with the developers, but I want to maintain that auditorium. I want to do something that's a festive thing, nothing that's going to compete with the Fox Theater, but something that I think that we'll enjoy, that's around the community, and it will be a gym. As we think about doing the Civic Center, we're thinking about doing a farmer's market. We're maintaining property as the highest level as we can. We also may want to bring some food trucks in there just to generate enthusiasm and make sure that we're moving forward in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate your response, but if you paid $20 million for that facility, you should not have. I believe you all purchased it from Invest Atlanta, which is a separate authority, although they're supposed to be cooperating on behalf of the city. You should not have paid for it. At least from my perspective, I don't believe that public entities operating on behalf of the exact same number of constituents and political jurisdiction ought to be doing that kind of real estate exchange. But I am encouraged by what you said, and just want to make a further point. The Civic Center never competes with the Fox. It's a smaller venue, and that was never the intention. And the city, since that time, has found itself in need of such a facility again. Specifically, when we look at even our own inaugurations, we've had to seek out twice now a place to hold it when traditionally it was obviously done at the Civic Center. I would be interested in being in the loop on that conversation, sir, if you would deem it appropriate to keep me informed. I would very much like to be a part of those conversations.
Absolutely. And thank you for your comment.
No problem. I yield, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Colleagues, any other questions or comments? I will ask one before we wrap up. Mr. Jones, a lot of conversations have been taking place over the last several weeks as it relates to Forest Cove, and everyone on this call knows that Atlanta Housing has no direct role in that site. You do own 30 or so acres across the street from it, and so I'm curious kind of what conversations have been taking place and what you see over the next 24 to 36 months as it relates to y'all's piece of publicly owned property in that collection of several dozen acres that are owned by different government or quasi-government entities.
Great question. The mayor has asked us to ramp up and speed up the development of Thomasville, and so we're looking at what that looks like. We're putting a plan together. We're going to go to the planners. We're going to look at our architects, and we're going to try to speed up this great development. I'm not sure what we're going to be building on there. We're looking at between 300 and 400 units on that property, but that's just off the top of my head. But he asked us to speed it up, and so hopefully within the next 18 to 24 months, we can have something in the ground vertically on Thomasville and complement that area around Forest Cove.
Understood. Appreciate it. Anyone else? All right. Thank you much, sir, for your presentation and coming by today.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda are communications. We have one. Ms. Linda, would you read that in, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's 22C 5024. This is a communication from Tanya Grier, County Clerk, to the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, submitting the appointment of Ms. Natalie Horn to the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
The appointee will be here on March 13th, and so I will make a motion to hold this communication until that time. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair.
Actually, there are 11 of them.
Yes. For ordinances for first read. Item number 2 is 22-1142. This is CDP 2165. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 238 Andrew J. Harrison Place Northwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. This is NPUL, Council District 3. Item number 3 is 22-1143, CDP 2166. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 131 Ledley Street Southeast from the single-family land use designation to the mixed-use low-density land use designation and for other purposes. This is NPUO, Council District 5. Item number 4 is 22-1144, CDP 2167. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 371 Boulevard Northeast from the low-density commercial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes, NPUM in Council District 2. Item number 5 is 22-1145. This is CDP 2168. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlantic Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 62 Waverly Way northeast from the low-density residential 0 to 8 units per acre land use designation to the high-density residential land use designation, and for other purposes, this is NPUN, Council District 2. Item number 6 is 22-1146, the CDP 2169. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlantic Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 54 Waverly Way Northeast from the low-density residential 0 to 8 units per acre land use designation to the high-density residential land use designation, and for other purposes, this is NTUN, Council District 2. Item number 8 is 22-1148. This is CDP 22002. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlantic Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2051, 2085, and 2095 Marietta Boulevard Northwest from the industrial land use designation to the mixed medium density land use designation, and for other purposes. NPUD, Council District 9. Item 9 is 22-1149. This is CDP 22003. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlantic Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at Fairview Road Northeast and North Avenue Northeast from the medium density residential 0 to 16 units per acre land use designation and the open space land use designation to the single family residential land use designation, and for other purposes, this is NPUN and Council District 2 and 6. Item number 10 is 22-1189. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to accept a reimbursement grant award from Bright from the Start, Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning for 2022 Summer Food Service Program in an amount not to exceed $790,680 in accordance with Section 9-210 of the Atlanta Code, and authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 intergovernmental grant fund budget to anticipate and appropriate, and authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into any necessary agreements in conjunction with summer food service program and for other purposes. Item number 11 is 22-1190. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to correct Ordinance 21-0609, which was adopted by the City Council on August 6, 2021, and approved as per the City of Law to correct the names of neighborhoods and the accompanying official neighborhood and neighborhood planning unit map, and for other purposes.
Thank you very much. Those items will come back to us in 2 weeks' time. On to ordinances for second reading.
Yes, Mr. Chair, item number 12 is 22-1114. This is an ordinance by Council members Michael Julian Bond, Mary Norwood, Andrea L. Boone, and Antonia Lewis, as amended by Community Development and Human Services Committee to revise the purpose and functions of the Rodney Cook Senior Park Historic Oversight Committee established pursuant to 20-1334 in order to ensure that the committee shall be authorized to engage the community and provide recommendations on implementing policies and procedures for the future maintenance and improvement of the park, to repeal Ordinance 20-R-44009, which established the Rodney Cook Senior Park Advisory Council, to reduce confusion and eliminate unnecessary duplication of efforts, to recognize Rodney Cook Senior Park Conservancy as a 501(c)(3) non-profit organization dedicated to the preservation and restoration of Rodney Cook Senior Park and for other purposes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Amos is the first person in the queue.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I would actually like to make a motion to hold this paper in committee, please.
Okay. Motion on the floor, which I will second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to speak in opposition to that motion.
Yes, sir.
Well, one, this paper actually facilitates the community's role in part clarifies the confusion that was around formation of the advisory committee for the park. So I guess I got a question for Mr. Amos. Why does he want to hold this when this is something that's of benefit to the community?
Mr. Amos?
Yes, I was unmuted. Actually, there's no clarification needed. There was an advisory group set up by a resolution over a year ago in which was designed to do a very specific thing. That group completed that task, actually dissolved, and submitted a final report to this body in which hopefully we will soon accept. So the clarification that this paper is seeking to clarify is no longer needed because there's no confusion to be had. There's nothing stopping either group from doing any of the work that they're setting out to do.
Okay, just to respond to you, Mr. Amos, you were confused. That is not completely accurate, what you just stated. It's only half true, and that's the purpose of this paper. There were actually two committees set up via legislation last year. One was via ordinance, and the other was resolution. The group that you referenced was never populated for the resolution that you are referring to. They were populated to the group for the ordinance. And the confusion comes because it's the same exact members on both. But if Ms. Amber Robinson, the lawyer from the law department, is available, I'd like to ask her to explain. And this ordinance, should not be held, it should be passed. But if she's available, Mr. Chair, I'd like to see if she can explain why this was necessary to clear up confusion, because Mr. Amos is ill-informed.
Ms. Robinson, I believe you are here.
Yes.
There you are.
Hi. Good afternoon. Happy to assist Amber Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. Council Member Bond's recitation of the history of these two legislative creations is correct. On August 3rd, 2020, the council adopted ordinance 201334, which established the Rodney Cook Senior Park Historic Oversight Committee, amongst other things. Resolution 20R4009 was also adopted by the Atlanta City Council on August 3rd, 2020. And that resolution established the Rodney Cook Senior Park Advisory Council. The Advisory Council and the Historic Oversight Committee were both made up of the same appointees. Two members from Neighborhood Planning Unit L, two members from Vine City Civic Association, one member from the Trust for Public Land, one from the Westside Future Fund, one from the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, one from Park Pride, one from appointed by the District 3 council member, and one appointed by the Post 1 at-large council member, and the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation or his designee. However, subsequent to the adoption and subsequent approval of both pieces of legislation, thereby making it so that both bodies were legally established, once the appointments began to come in, all of the appointments were confirmed to the Oversight Committee. All communications that were sent to council to appoint members were to the Historic Oversight Committee. There were no communications which were sent in and accepted by the Atlanta City Council to the Advisory Council. So following the confirmation of members to the Advisory Council went about their work. Some of the work, as it's been reported, may have been the work that was the resolution Advisory Council was tasked with. However, legally, the members were always on the Oversight Committee. The Advisory Council was never populated.
And thus the need for the current legislation, correct?
Well,
the
current legislation will eliminate the Advisory Council, which has never been populated, in favor of the Oversight Committee, which has been populated was fully populated as late as November of 2021, when the 10th member was appointed to that particular group. So it will eliminate the body which was never populated in favor of the one which was, in order to cut down on confusion, as stated in the legislation from a policy standpoint. This legislation also makes it clear that that Historic Oversight Committee would be authorized to stand in as a liaison between the community and the city concerning Cook Park and its development, which was a clear function of the Advisory Council, but was not a clear function of the Historic Oversight Committee.
Okay. Well, given this very able explanation, I would speak against the motion to file. I know that under the individuals who are functioning on this group, believing that they were functioning under the rules and purposes of the resolution, voted themselves out of existence. And so if there are those, and this is a question for Ms. Robinson, if there are those who no longer wish to serve on it, what is their recourse?
If there are persons who no longer wish to serve on a board, authority, or committee of the city, they may resign their positions, and their positions can be subject to reappointment should they so choose.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to respectfully ask yourself and my good friend and colleague, Mr. Amos, to withdraw you all's motion to hold so that this paper can be in place and that we can begin to move on. And that if there are individuals who no longer wish to serve, which is, of course, their choice and their right, please simply can inform the clerk and resign. And the community can move on, and we can have an established vehicle for community input in and around the park, which is already designated by ordinance last year.
So one point of clarification from myself, and then I'll defer to Mr. Amos. Mr. Bond, just a second ago, you made a reference about a motion to file, and I believe the motion that Mr. Amos made was to hold. Is that right, Councilmember Amos?
It's to hold. Yeah, but withdraw those motions.
Okay. So that is the motion on the floor. And Mr. Amos, I will defer to you. Any comments you want to make?
Well, thank you. Actually, the explanation by my colleague and by the city attorney, actually, I believe, added even more confusion to a confused paper already. We have a group of citizens and a group of stakeholders that have done work and was allowed to do work for a year under the auspices of doing the work. And now we are saying that that group existed, but didn't exist. And so that adds even more confusion that this paper doesn't clear up. This paper even goes beyond the advisory group and do certain things in which I don't think that we should be putting the citizens in charge of doing. So like I say, with me being the district rep, have some very unreadiness and some questions that still need to be asked around this paper, I'm standing firm on my motion to hold it in committee.
Well, I really regret that, because so the committee can know that Mr. Amos and I were in tandem when this paper was initiated. I have spoken to members of the committee, which is, we both live in the same neighborhood. And the community members that I've spoken with are in support of the legislation. And if we want the park to be successful, if we want the community to have an established, clear role, and access to have exercising input and oversight on the park, this is a solution to do so. And, of course, Mr. Amos, referred this back last week, hadn't heard from him at all over the course of a week. If he had concerns, we could certainly address them, but I'm sorry that he feels that he's still confused, but I think the explanation from the law department was extremely clear that we need to clean up what happened, because inadvertently, probably, and I hate to pull the clerk in on this, but whoever processed the appointments never processed the appointments for the committee that was empowered by the resolution. They did so for the committee that's already authorized in the ordinance. And so the work still was done, Mr. Amos. They completed the mission of what was in the resolution. And so now we still have to populate the committee or initiate the work that's designated in the ordinance that was passed last year. So I'm appealing to you again. At a certain point, we need to move forward. We need to move forward on the work that's going to keep this community moving and developing that great facility that we all share. And so I just ask you again, we've worked on this for more than a decade. And, this is a pebble in the shoe kind of issue. I mean, this isn't big enough to warrant not moving forward, in my opinion. So I'm just publicly appealing to you again. Can we move forward and populate this with individuals who want to work? I mean, if there are those, the committee that thought that they were working under the auspices of the resolution, I mean, they voted themselves out of existence. They felt their work was finished. They did so. I was at that meeting, and I asked the question of that group who thought that they were the group that was underneath the resolution. I said, hey, does this mean that you all are dissolving? Does this mean that you all are not going to meet again? And their answer to me was yes. And so those persons who did that work, who did meet, they completed what they were going to do. And as you stated yourself, they're going to send a communication to this committee, if they haven't already, stating so. So we're at a different point now. We're at a point where, we need to get a new group of citizens, or some of the same, or some of the new, and to begin to move forward. And that's what progress in the community is all about. The citizens you referenced that did that good work, They completed it, and it's over. And so now we've got to take an additional step. I want to ask you again. I mean, we worked shoulder to shoulder for years. You know, it's time to move forward, and I'd like to ask you again, you know, can we move forward? Will you withdraw?
Councilmember Bond, yes, you are correct. We have worked shoulder to shoulders. We have worked shoulder to shoulder since the first raindrop fell in Vine City on that dreadful night that actually got us to where we are now. You stated I'm confused. I am not confused. I am very clear on what we must do. You're also right that I did not reach out to you in over a week because your intentions are in black and white. So I believe they are very clear. I spoke to members of the community. This paper does more than just clear up confusion about the advisory council and or who was on it or who was not on it. You know, if you see a path forward, let's take this next cycle. Hopefully my colleagues will support me and find that path forward. You are correct. It is time to move forward. And if this is a pebble in a shoe type of thing that you spoke about, I have had a pebble in my shoe and it made my entire foot hurt. So let's avoid the foot ache in this paper and work together to move it forward. Mr. Vice Chair, I stand firm and I will not withdraw my motion to hold.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I would just hope that the committee would not support the motion to hold. Mr. Amos, I discussed this paper with him before it was even written. You know, we've talked. The group that he referenced that he would like to support, they voted themselves out of existence. You know, at a certain point, I understand, having been the District 3 council member in the past, the inclination for others to want to support, no matter what goes on, and, you know, for their colleague in their district. But at a certain point, you know, we're elected to the full body of the city council, and we've got to make the best decisions on behalf of the city in total and in the neighborhoods and communities. You know, my phone's in Byron's phone and vice versa. If there were issues that we needed to discuss, he could have, even though I have my position and he has his, we obviously could have talked prior to today and talked about those issues. I'm not aware of anything else this paper does other than what's stated in the caption, and that is the purpose to clarify, cut down confusion, and appoint those who are willing to serve, make it clear that those who are willing to serve are on this committee. There are ulterior motives associated with this. You know, it's just time to move on. This has gone on for a long time, and, you know, we're doing this work, or I'm doing this work for sure in the memory of our colleague who's no longer here, Ivory Lee Jr., who wanted to see this completed within the span of his life, but of course, his life was cut short. And so, I mean, I don't know what else there is to discuss. I mean, it's as plain as the nose on your face. And our esteemed lawyer was pretty clear about what the facts of this actually are. And there really isn't much to it other than that. So I hope we would not support the motion.
All right. At the risk of prolonging this a little bit, it clearly does sound like there are some that we're not all on the same page, and that we should be before moving legislation forward. So I'm happy to try and help make that happen over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to leave my second in place for now, largely for the reasons that Mr. Bond just articulated. But then I'm happy to try and help us figure out the right path forward in the next few days. So any other questions or comments? All right. Ms. Lindo, will you please open the vote?
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Nay.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. On to item number 13.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 20-1133. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the charter of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, adopted under and by virtue of the authority of the Municipal Room Act of 1965, Section 36-35, amended by amending some Part B, related laws, Chapter 9, taxation, Article 2, ad valorem tax, Division 3, exemptions, Subdivision 2, urban enterprise zones, Section 9, 61 through 973 of the Atlanta Code of Ordinances, for the purpose of updating these sections with the language from the New Atlanta Urban Enterprise Zone Act and for other purposes.
Thank you. Mr. Humphreys, would you speak to this paper, please, before we entertain a motion?
Hi, Mr. Vice Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. This is Josh Humphreys. So this paper would make a charter amendment to the city's charter. The Urban Enterprise Zone program is a program that's existed since sometime in the 1980s in the city, and it's authorized by the General Assembly of the state. And so last year, as part of our work with the Housing Affordability Action Plan and general efforts around affordable housing, we went to the state and worked with some local reps to update the Urban Enterprise Zone program that had not been updated since the 1990s to do some cleanup. There was just some old code stuff in it that didn't make a lot of sense anymore, so some of it's basic cleanup, and then also to provide broader permissions around affordable housing. And so there's actually two papers. There's a charter amendment and then a code amendment. The charter amendment takes what was passed last year at the state and ratifies it locally. So it's a verbatim pull from the state code that was passed in 2021. And then so this would be we're asking today that you vote. It'd come back again next committee meeting as well, since the charter amendment had to be voted on twice. And then for the second paper, I'll go ahead and talk on that briefly. We're asking to hold the second item and have that go next cycle with the charter amendment, and that makes amendments to the city code. So these are the two elements that update this Urban Enterprise Zone program.
Good deal. Any questions or comments from the body? All right. If not, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, item number 13 of 20-1134. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the City of Atlanta Municipal Code Section 146-51 to provide for a strategic urban enterprise zone program to designate areas in Exhibit A as urban enterprise zones and for other purposes.
Motion to hold. Is there a second?
Second, Bakhtiari.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next item.
Next item is, Mr. Chair, item number 14. This is 20-1135. And we have an amendment that changes the caption. So if I can have a motion to bring that amendment forward.
Motion to amend. That's correct. Motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Amos.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Amos. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The caption is amended. Go for it.
The This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee, including the commissioner of the Department of City Planning, to apply for and accept an Environmental Protection Agency Brownsville Revolving Loan Fund supplemental grant in the amount not to exceed $5 million and 0 cents on behalf of the Department of City Planning for the City of Atlanta Brownsville Revolving Loan Fund and for other purposes.
Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Can I have a second?
Bakhtiari, second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond? Aye. Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. Next block of items.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 1519. Item number 15 is 220-1153. This is CDP 22007. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Lilian Bakhtiari to amend the land use element of the 2021 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property at 2001 Glenwood Avenue Southeast and 2007 Glenwood Avenue Southeast and 2013 Glenwood Avenue Southeast in Georgia 30316 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item number 16 is 220-1156 CDP 22005. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari to amend the land use element of the 2021 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property located at 2014 Swayze Drive, Decatur, Georgia 30032 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes. Item 17 is 220-1159 CDP 22006. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari to amend the land use element of the 2021 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property located at 2071, 2080, 2083, and 2084 Kavanaugh Avenue Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia 30316 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes. Number 18 is 220-1175. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency to amend cooperative agreement FC 1190-582 cooperative agreement for workforce service delivery providing adult dislocated worker and youth services with Arbor E&T LLC to reduce workforce innovation opportunity grant funding allocations from fiscal year 2021 dislocated worker and increase the adult program, all services to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. And then 19 is 220-1176. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the Department of Procurement to issue a purchase order and grants and accounting to update accounting information associated with cooperative agreement FC 1190-582, the cooperative agreement for workforce service delivery providing adult dislocated worker and youth services between the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency and Equius Workforce Solutions to use Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act grant award funds from fiscal year 21 for 36 adult, fiscal year 21 dislocated worker, and project year 20 youth to pay outstanding obligations of $597,551.51. All services to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to hold those items for the second quarter CDP hearings. May I have a second?
Second, Bakhtiari.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
And Miss Linda, major kudos to being able to say my name that many times without messing it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
So it is Mr. Bond.
Aye.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are held. On to resolutions.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This next item is 22R 3194. This is a resolution by Councilmember Antonia Lewis to establish a District 12 Art Task Force for the purpose of promoting engagement in quality arts and cultural programming within the district and for other purposes.
Is Mr. Lewis on the call, Ms. Lindo?
I am checking, Mr. Chair. His staff indicated that he would call in. Councilmember Lewis is not on the call.
Okay. Well, I will make a motion to approve, and if we need to send it back for any reason next Monday, we can.
Bakhtiari, second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Abstain.
There you go.
Will everyone please vote?
Yeah, Mr. Winston, how would you like to vote?
Yay, sorry, that came through.
It's all good.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. That item is favorable. I believe we need to remove 1, maybe 2 items from held. Right, Ms. Lindo?
Yes, Mr. Chair. For item number 23, that's 22-1041. This is CDP 2146. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 559, 565, 569, 10th Street Northwest, and 997 Current Street Northwest from a low-density residential 0 to 8 units per acre land use designation to the medium density land use designation and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, we do have a substitute that would remove the address 997 Current Street from the land use request.
I will make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second?
Bakhtiari, second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bakhtiari. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
Yay, 0 nays. The substitute is before us. And now I will make a motion to hold for the next CDP hearing. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, since this is held, we can just leave it as held. We do not need another motion to hold it.
Fair enough. Appreciate it. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 24. This is 22-1042. This is CDP 2164. This is an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1258, 1262, 1264, and 1287 Donnelly Hollowell Parkway Northwest and 593 and 605 Anthony Street Northwest from the open space land use designation to the mixed use land use designation and for other purposes. This is NPUJ in Council District 9.
Mr. Hillis, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Hillis, which I will second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. That is also our final legislative item of the meeting. Any general remarks?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
On tomorrow, the Hellofresh grab and go community food distribution will take place at 3 p.m. at the Shifting Energy Marketplace at 1149 Lee Street Southwest, 30310 at 3 p.m. There's no prerequisite to receive this benefit. All those who are in need are encouraged to come while supplies last. We partner with Hellofresh, Second Helping Atlanta, and we distribute about 8,000 meals a week. So we will have in-person vehicle and walk-up pickup. Again, the location is Shifting Energy Marketplace, 1149 Lee Street, 30310 at 3 p.m. And if you don't need it, please tell someone who might.
Good deal. Thank you much. Anyone else? All right. In that case, I will make a motion to adjourn, and we will be back in the capable hands of Chair Dozier on March 15th. So thanks, everybody.